sometimes a clearing can be like a breadcrumb. One spiritual clearing can get you to the next spiritual clearing, which can get you to the next one and or the next one. They're not always connected, but today I want to share with you an example of when one clearing is connected to another. On a rare occasion, I will see a pattern happening. One spiritual clearing will end up leading to another one and to another one and to another one. And there's some really powerful meaning behind this, and I can explain a little bit why that's happening. But first, I want to tell you the recent experience that happened that reminded me of this pattern. Now, this doesn't happen all the time. More often than not, someone who needs a clearing on land or property or with a person will reach out to you and say, hey, I just need a clearing. You go do the clearing. Someone who's really good at doing clearing work and crossing over work, it's a one-time thing. It's so rare that somebody needs to go in and do clearing work over and over and over. Something to make note of if you've run into someone who does clearing work that is there every week and you have to pay them every single time. That's a little bit of a red flag. When it comes to crossing over work and doing clearing work, it's a one-time thing. If you cross a spirit over, they can't come back. They can't go in reverse through their process and need to be crossed over again. So it's very rare that you have repeat situations. You go in one time, do the work. It's great, you move on. But occasionally, this happened recently, you go in and do a clearing, and the people involved with that clearing, the living people, will talk to others, and then other people will say, hey, you know what? That makes me think that maybe something's going on, or give them the courage to start to share what's been going on for them. Here's the thing, not all individuals are either aware that a spiritual clearing is something that's possible because, they've been raised in a culture that doesn't talk about that or introduce that concept. They don't focus on energy. They only focus on the human experience and not anything spiritual. Or somebody is aware of it. They're fully aware that there is, what pop culture likes to call a haunting, and maybe they don't want to say anything to anyone. Maybe that's just a really uncomfortable thing for them. They don't even know where to start or where to look. Or, and this is the one that happened recently, maybe someone does have activity in the house and guides, higher up, universe says, now is a good time to get this cleared out. Even though it's not causing problems, now is a good time to get this cleared out. Because we have to remember that we're watched over. Our spiritual guides, the universe, know what's happening for us, know what we need. And this is true for homeowners as well. Perhaps there is a bit of a clearing that needs to be done on a property, but the homeowners aren't overly experiencing a ton of activity. It's not causing any distress, but maybe it's time for a clearing to happen. This is kind of what happened recently. So if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, there is a community that we have. It's a monthly membership. It's the Crossing Over community. And if you're a part of that membership, you'll have access to the actual video where the Crossing Over team did the work on this. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, but just know that there is that membership platform that if you want to get the behind the scenes videos, you can. I'll put a link in here and I'll guide you to it. So a friend of mine, here's the story that unfolded. A friend of mine contacted me and they had recently started working at a daycare center, brand new job. And they quickly found out that there was a pattern in this daycare center that the other employees were aware of. In addition, the owner was aware of this as well, that the toys would just randomly turn on and they would just randomly start playing or making noises on their own. And it sounded like it was kind of common knowledge. And I said to my friend, the Crossing Over team that I have is meeting very soon, like next week. Do you want us to look into the daycare center and see what's going on, see if we can pick anything up or see if there needs to be anything cleared? She said, that'd be great. I said, excellent. And then that was it. I didn't really ask much more in the beginning. Met with the Crossing Over team, a powerful, amazing group of women, and we met and we recorded it. Like I said, that's in the Crossing Over community. We recorded it and I told them there's a location, there's some paranormal activity happening. I can't tell you anything else because it always is very helpful to not feed the intuitive and say, here's this, here's that. Are you picking up on it as well? So you don't want to really influence. You just want them to go in as blind as possible. And each of the team members came back with some really cool connection. One team member instantly got, the imagery, a vision of like symbolically like Ronald McDonald, there's business, but there's kids. Another one of the team members got an image of a marble, like a kid's marble rolling across the floor. I'm like, well, that's a toy in action. That makes sense to me. And I just sat quiet while, waited for the rest of the feedback. Some people picked up on the kids, and that was really neat to see them really anchor in to the energy authentically without being, informed of what was going on. So I did share with them then, and again, you can watch the whole video in the community area if you want to sign up for that membership. But I did go into that with them and say, okay, well, here's what's going on. This is what I know. I know that it's a daycare center. I know that the toys automatically start playing. And then we went a little bit further into the clearing, and we did pick up a male energy. Now, the male energy felt unhappy, aggressive, et cetera, et cetera. Definitely a male that needed to be crossed over and needed to go home. When a spirit, like I've said before, if you followed me on here, when a spirit has those fear-based feelings, they need to be crossed over. So the team worked with that together. I love doing crossing over work as a team. I love when multiple people come together to do it. It is so powerful, so quick, so efficient. And there's so much love involved with the process too, that it's overall a great thing. So the team, gathered we were on a session, Zoom session live recording, but we all kind of got together and focused on crossing over this male. So end of the session. Again, that's all the information I had up front because it was kind of a casual conversation between me and my friend. I texted my friend and said, oh yeah, this is what we picked up on. Here's, the snippet of the video so you can watch, what all the practitioners picked up on in the session. And she replied back. She was like, this is great. And then I started to hear that she had shared it with some other coworkers and things and it gradually got to, a coworker, and then it got to the owner of the daycare. Turns out the owner of the daycare then shared that her husband had been uncomfortable going into the building, felt like there was a male presence he wasn't wanted there, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, that lines up perfectly. We didn't feel that the male spirit that needed to be crossed over in this daycare, we didn't feel that he was overly harmful. We didn't feel like he was necessarily from there. This was in a very older town, older area. So the older you get in the town, the more the East Coast you go to in this country, the more situations you're going to run into where there's a lot of different possibilities of where this male spirit could have come from. While we didn't go into too many details around that, we just crossed him over. It was really interesting to hear that feedback from my friend saying, yeah, this other living male has come into the building and felt uncomfortable with it. So that was really positive. And then it opened up a conversation about the daycare owner's own home. And my friend started to share, as the daycare owner was sharing with her, that they've had a lot of activity there. They've had some people come in the past, but the activity is starting to build up again. And I said, absolutely. Do you want us to tap in as a group together and look into that, which I believe we're going to do the next time we meet again, and we'll record it. We'll put it into the community. But she said, yes. So she talked to the owner. The owner said, absolutely. Here's some other things that I'm experiencing and feeling. I was able to share with the owner one of all of our favorite tools, which is GCP, Ground Clear Protect, and gave her those tools to use that until we can get in there to clear it. This is just such a great example. Oh, by the way, she sent photos of the former owners of this house, which again, very old house, very old photo from of the owners. It was really neat to see and get that feedback. But this is an example where that owner of the daycare, her home, we didn't have a connection, right? We didn't have that direct connection. And sometimes there's some spirit guides in action here saying, you know what? We want this house, this home cleared. And we think that this team would be a good team to do it. And it's neat to watch the links happen to get you there. So sometimes the pattern will set itself up in such a way that maybe someone has something happen, you work with that. they tell someone else, that person. So it's spiritual word of mouth. It's spiritual word of mouth. And it also sounds as if the activity in this daycare owner's personal home wasn't intense enough or significant enough for her to feel urgency in hiring someone to help her. But yet all of this happened in her business through one of her new employees who knew a team that did this work. They picked up on this stuff, and it kind of sparked her to think, well, my house could use a clearing too. And sometimes that's how it works. Sometimes you're going to stumble into doing spiritual clearing work for a home, for land, for an individual. Sometimes you're going to be doing something else and you realize, oh, I have to clear this land, or I'm being asked by my guides to do this work or that work. And sometimes it is that kind of waterfall effect where one thing you do opens up to the possibility for somebody else to be able to connect with you. And we think about this in human terms of word of mouth. But what I want to share with you is really opening up to the concept that there's so much going on, quote, behind the scenes, right? There's so much going on in the spiritual realms. And sometimes your guide or the guides of the loved or people that need assistance are going to work in creative ways to make sure that they get the assistance from the human side with the easiest way possible. So could very well be that, spiritual guides of this business owner herself, or the spiritual guides of maybe spirits that are attracted to that home and or stuck currently, need something to happen. So it sparked a conversation between me and a friend at the business that this woman owned. And then she went, so if you run into someone that says, I just heard about this, or I just heard about that, it's kind of strange, but it just dropped in my lap, and it just in passing, if you hear anything like that, it doesn't surprise me. What I want you to take away from this session is that spirit guides are at work. They're taking care of us, and spirit guides, who are the guides of individuals who are stuck in the in-between, are also still working for that individual who is stuck in the in-between. If a spirit, a person who has passed, is struggling with their transition, needs assistance, they're still going to have a spirit guide that is going to work hard to try to line up the points needed to line up to get somebody to come and assist. I've seen it many, many, many times, and it's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful to know that even through your transition to the other side, you are still watched over, supported by loved ones, by guides, by source in your journey. It's that love and support doesn't stop just because your physical body has stopped. Doesn't mean that love and support doesn't stop, and they won't continue to work with you through the other side. A popular question when I talk about how guides influence helping spirits to be crossed over, to get the assistance of crossing over, popular question I get is, can't the guides just cross someone over? Why do we need the human help? We need the human help because crossing over goes from the human realm to the spiritual realm, 100% human to 100% spiritual, and you're making that transition. Yes, you've let go of the physical body, but you haven't completely let go of this lifetime on this linear timeline in this space and format, this agreed upon reality that you came into. And not until you mentally are able to completely review, completely process, and completely let go of this lifetime in linear time are you able to cross over and let it go. When we are linked into our timeline, we still have a bit of blinders, and those blinders are not from the physical body. The blinders are from the human mind on linear time. So an individual who's crossing over, going through that process, still very much has the mind of the individual who has this lifetime here, and they're moving through it. They're still thinking in terms of linear time. When you are anchored into linear time, spirit guides are unable to do anything and everything that they possibly could want. Otherwise, I could hold my hand up and a chocolate bar would land right there, right now. But yeah, that's a good example. Anyway, the whole process itself, you're still watched over. That's the big message. And if someone in the human realm can assist you in crossing over, and again, Many, many traditions. We've talked about this in other videos. There's many traditions all over the world of living humans supporting their loved ones on their journey through the in-between. This is not some random concept. It happens all over the globe. We are supporting that and loving and encouraging that. And sometimes in some cultures and some societies, you lack that. People who pass and go to crossover don't have anyone on this side thinking about supporting them through that process and energetically, cheering them on, you could say. So if that's something that they need, if they need a human, a living person here in this realm to show up for them energetically, and the guides can get you into that space so hey, this guide wants you to help this loved one, that's exactly what's going to happen. So it's very important. We're watched over. And if a clearing has to happen, if somebody does need assistance to cross over, and or a living person needs assistance in clearing their space, even if they're not completely aware of it in that moment, then it's going to happen. The guides are going to get you there. Luckily, this homeowner, who's also the owner of the daycare, is very, very well versed in the spiritual, very aware of this. She's dealt with things in the past, and this is just more like, yeah, you know what? Come to think of it, the energy is raising up a little bit. Wouldn't hurt to do a clearing. So timing is right. Guides are watching over you, making sure everybody completes their transition, and every living person here, is healthy, happy, and in the best place that they can be as well. And it's really important. You know why it's important? Because ghosts are people too.